My mother's text lit up my screen with 5 words that cut deeper than any silence. "Don't bother coming, idiot." In that moment, I wasn't her daughter anymore. I was disposable. I'm Antoinette Graves, and this is the story of how one message shattered everything I thought I knew about family. The office lights flicked off behind me as I pushed through the glass doors into the Boston night. Holiday lights dangled across the street, glowing against the wet pavement where crowds shuffled past with bags of pies and turkeys. I hugged my damp coat closer, calculating how much I had left at home. A packet of instant noodles, nothing more. Laughter spilled from my coworkers as they headed off to family dinners, their voices still echoing in my ears as I stepped into the drizzle. My phone buzzed. One line glared back at me. No call, no explanation, just 5 words, stripped of warmth and sharper than the wind. "Don't bother showing up for Thanksgiving, idiot!" I froze under the neon glow of a bar sign, water dripping from my hair, staring at the message until the letters blurred. The word idiot burned, as if it had been waiting all along to cut me open. My throat tightened. I couldn't tell if it was the rain soaking me through or the way my chest caved in. Almost on instinct, I opened the family group chat. Names scrolled past like a guest list to a party I was paying for, but never invited to. Mine was missing. Jordan, the cousin who never missed a chance to remind me of my place. Typed in, "Better without her." A laughing emoji followed from Aunt Lorraine. The rest stayed silent. No one spoke up. No one pushed back. And in that silence, I understood. They hadn't just left me out of a dinner. They had erased me. The memories came back in flashes, each one carrying the same bitter taste. When my father collapsed from a stroke, I signed the check that covered what the insurance refused. No one asked where the money came from. They just nodded and moved on. The winter, the roof caved in. I wired funds overnight so the repairs could be finished before the storm hit. When the electric bill threatened to cut the heat in January, I rushed a payment at the last minute, saving them from sitting in the dark while snow piled outside. Every single time, they said the same thing. Just until next month, and every month bled into the next, the promises piling as high as the unpaid debts. I became the silent account they could always tap, while Jordan flooded his social media with pictures of steak dinners and champagne toasts, captioned, "Winning at life." It was then the truth pressed down on me, heavier than the bills themselves. In their eyes, I wasn't a daughter, I wasn't family, I was a safety net, stretched thin, waiting to break. One night, I opened the shared family calendar, the place where every birthday, holiday, and reunion had always been marked. Thanksgiving dinner, 6 p.m., still stood in bold letters, but my name was gone from the invite list, as if I had never been meant to sit at that table. The realization hit like a delete key pressed on my existence. I typed a message to my mother, asking softly, "Was my name left out by mistake?" Her reply came back cold, clipped, "If you can't behave, stay away." Scrolling down, I caught Jordan's latest comment in the group chat. "Better without her." Almost instantly, Aunt Lorraine dropped in a laughing emoji, bright and cruel. The rest of the chat stayed silent. No one defended me. Not one voice rose to stop it. And in that silence, the truth sharpened. I wasn't just forgotten. I was erased. And they wanted it that way. It was a quiet Saturday morning when I ducked into the grocery store for bread and coffee. The line was short, the air filled with the hum of casual chatter, until I caught sight of Aunt Lorraine at the counter. She forced a smile at me, then turned to the cashier with a voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. She counts pennies like it's a religion. Don't bother with small talk. The cashier's hand faltered mid-scan, her polite smile wilting. A woman behind me muttered under her breath, "Ouch!" I felt the weight of eyes pinning me to the spot, their judgment sharper than the chill outside. My face burned hot, and for a second, the urge to spit the truth back at her rose in my throat. But I swallowed it down, abandoned my basket, and walked out. In the car, fog clung to the windshield, my reflection fractured in the glass. Shame had never felt so public, so exposed. They weren't content keeping me invisible at home. They were rewriting me into a punchline out in the open. I scrolled my phone, searching for something to steady myself. Instead, Jordan's post filled the screen. A sleek dinner spread, glasses raised high, his caption glowing beneath it. Family first. It landed like a slap. Their story of family unity lived online, curated for strangers, while I sat in a parking lot choking on humiliation. That's when it struck me. This wasn't neglect or oversight. They were painting me as the broken one, the difficult one, to justify the erasure. That night, the subway platform howled with wind, steel tracks gleaming under harsh lights. My phone rang, Jordan's name flashing. His voice pushed through the static, cutting sharp against the tunnel's roar. "Send me $2,000. I need the ring for the proposal. Family won't forgive you if you refuse." I kept silent, clutching the phone tighter. His tone softened, but only in cruelty. "You should be grateful. We're giving you a chance to redeem yourself." The rush of a train screamed past, sparks lighting the tunnel in brief bursts. Beneath the noise, another voice threaded through. My mother's, low and practical. My father's, hesitant but complicit. I strained to catch the words, and then I did. "If we put it under Antoinette's name, the bank will approve." The world tilted. This wasn't another demand for quick cash or a guilt-laced favor. They were planning to bind me legally, to anchor me to their debts in ink and signatures. I stood frozen as the train doors opened and closed, the crowd pressing around me. My heart pounded against my ribs. They weren't just draining me anymore. They were plotting to own me, on paper, for life. I bought the plastic binder before dawn, the kind with a cracked spine that promises durability it can't keep. Rain threaded through my coat as I walked home, and with each step, my hands tightened around that small, ordinary thing, like it was a lifeline. At my kitchen table, I spread receipts across the laminate, hospital bills, invoices for the roof, gas and electric notices, stacks of transfers labeled gift and loan. I circled dates, highlighted amounts Jordan never repaid, traced the pattern of promises that became a habit of taking. The total at the bottom made my stomach drop. Years of savings evaporated into a family-sized hole. I felt equal parts betrayed and liberated. I slid the pages into the binder and went to see Howard. In the cafe's warm light, I slid the binder across to him. He flipped through, his brow knotting, then looked up slowly. "You haven't been a daughter to them," he said, voice low. "You've been a safety net. Safety nets tear if pulled too long." He walked me through practical steps: how to cancel autopay, secure accounts, remove my card from shared bills, a strategy as quiet and efficient as a lock clicking shut. No drama, just numbers and legal moves. For the first time, the plan felt doable. Black Friday came like any other shopping holiday. But I was at home. Screen glow painting my face. One by one, I executed the checklist, canceled mortgage autopay, removed my card from utility accounts, switched the family line to prepaid under my own number, and disconnected the house internet. Each click felt like a small untying. The phone blew up. Voicemails stacked one after another. My mother's voice, brittle and furious. "Do you realize what you've done? You ruined everything." I deleted the messages without listening, something I hadn't been able to do for years. Silence settled in the apartment for the first time in a long while. The next morning, Jordan's feed erupted with photos of an extravagant engagement party. Long tables, clinking glasses, curated smiles. "True family never abandons you," he wrote, the caption a lacquered lie over a rotten core. My chest stung, not with fear, but with a cold clarity. He could perform family for the cameras. He couldn't hide the truth in my binder. I set my phone down and, for the first time, felt the shape of what I might choose next. The call came late in the afternoon, her voice ragged and trembling. "The bank keeps calling," she said, barely holding back sobs. "We can't cover it." A pause stretched between us, filled only by the static of the line and her shallow breaths. I didn't answer right away. My eyes drifted toward the binder on my kitchen counter, its cheap plastic cover catching the dull light. Finally, I told her I was on my way. The drive felt longer than it was. Boston's streets blurred past under a low gray sky. The city folding into the quiet of the suburbs where I'd grown up. The house came into view, peeling shutters, sagging porch rail, the kind of place that once smelled like cinnamon at Christmas, but now just looked tired. Inside, the golden light of the kitchen lamp flickered weakly against walls stained with time. The air carried the bitter trace of coffee, left too long on the burner. They were already at the table, waiting. My father sat hunched, his skin pale around the mouth, exhaustion etched into the lines of his face. My mother's hands were folded tight, knuckles bone-white against the wood. I walked in slowly, the binder tucked under my arm, and set it down with a sharp cash. The sound cut through the silence like a hammer strike. I pulled the binder open and slid the first page toward them. "Hospital bills," I said evenly. My father's eyes flickered to the page, then to me. His lips parted, but no sound came. The next page, roof repairs, then utilities, internet, mortgage payments stamped with dates and check numbers, line after line, my handwriting, my account number, my sacrifice spelled out in ink. "This was me," I said, tapping the totals with my finger. "Not Jordan, not anyone else, me." My father's voice broke the silence at last, a thin rasp. "We thought Jordan was helping." The words landed heavy, almost pathetic, like an excuse even he didn't believe. My mother reached out, her hand trembling as she flipped to the next page, her lips pressed tight, as if clamping down on everything she might say. Her eyes darted across the highlighted transfers, the receipts, the records she had chosen not to see. The front door creaked open behind me. Heavy steps echoed into the kitchen. Jordan strolled in, jacket slung carelessly over one shoulder, but he froze when his gaze landed on the binder. His face darkened in an instant, the practiced smirk faltering. "What is this?" he demanded, stepping closer. His voice rose, sharp and accusatory. "You can't just throw all this at them. You can't just abandon us like this." I turned toward him, meeting his anger with a calm I hadn't felt before. My pulse thudded, but my voice came steady. "Abandon?" I repeated. "I've carried you, all of you, and now I'm done." His fists clenched, jaw tight, but he didn't speak. My words filled the space he tried to dominate. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. "I'm not abandoning," I said, my tone like steel slicing through the stale air. "I'm stopping the abuse." The kitchen went silent again, but this time it wasn't the silence of denial or avoidance. It was the silence that follows a truth too sharp to ignore. My father lowered his gaze. My mother's fingers stilled on the page. Jordan stepped back, color draining from his face. In that moment, the binder between us wasn't just paper. It was the wall I'd built between the person I had been, the one who paid, who bent, who broke, and the person I had just become. The house smelled faintly of polish and old fabric, as if someone had rushed to make it presentable. A week had passed since the confrontation in my parents' kitchen, but the summons for a family meeting had arrived quickly, written like an ultimatum. By the time I stepped into the wide living room, every chair was filled, aunts, uncles, cousins, faces I had known my whole life now gathered in a semicircle. Waiting, the overhead lamp cast a golden haze, but it didn't warm the air. No one spoke at first. I could feel the expectation pressing against me. Sit down, apologize, undo the damage. They wanted the same girl who always paid quietly and said nothing. Instead, I carried the blue binder in plain sight and set it down in the center of the long table. The thud made several heads turn. I flipped it open, the paper rasping as I pulled free a stack of statements. My voice stayed calm. "You all should see this." The first murmur came sharp and dismissive. An uncle on my mother's side leaned back in his chair and scoffed. She's making drama again. The words pricked at me, but I had heard them too many times to flinch now. I slid the first packet across the polished wood. The stamped logos of the bank gleamed at the top of each page. Transfer after transfer, account numbers, cleared checks. I didn't embellish, didn't explain. The documents spoke for themselves. As the sheets landed in front of them, the room's chatter faltered. My father shifted uneasily. My mother's hands stayed locked in her lap, her gaze fixed low, as though she could will herself invisible. I placed another pile down, mortgage payments that weren't theirs, prescriptions that had never been reimbursed, the roof repair that Jordan bragged about, organizing. My finger tapped the highlighted lines. Every dollar here came from me. The air thickened. Jordan, who had lounged in his chair with arms crossed, suddenly leaned forward. His face was flushed, a bead of sweat crawling at his temple. He opened his mouth, but nothing came. His jaw clenched, his bravado collapsing under the ink and numbers staring back at him. An aunt shifted uncomfortably, whispering to the cousin beside her. Another uncle cleared his throat, but no words followed. The pile of papers spread across the table like an accusation no one could outrun. My mother still hadn't looked up, her nails dug into her palms, knuckles pale against her skirt. She traced the edge of the tablecloth instead of meeting my eyes. For the first time, I understood. Her silence wasn't strength, it was fear of being exposed. I let the silence grow heavy, stretching long enough for the weight of every receipt, every ignored sacrifice, to sink in. Then I stood, my chair scraped back, the sound sharp and final. "I'm not your provider," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "I'm your daughter. If that's not enough, I'll walk away." The words landed like a stone dropped into still water, rippling through the gathered crowd. My uncle, who had dismissed me earlier, stared at the documents in front of him, his face gone pale. A cousin avoided my eyes, her phone suddenly more interesting. Jordan shoved back his chair so hard it screeched against the floor. His breath came hard, his fury naked. Without a word, he stormed toward the hallway, the slam of the front door shaking the frame behind him. No one followed, no one tried to stop him. The rest of them stayed rooted in place, heads lowered, some stealing uneasy glances at me, others pretending to study the wood grain of the table. No one challenged me again, no one dared. The room, once so eager to see me fold, had become suffocating with their silence. But this time, the silence wasn't mine to carry. It belonged to them, the witnesses to a truth they could no longer deny. I gathered the binder, closed it with a snap, and tucked it under my arm. As I turned toward the door, I caught one last glimpse of my mother. Her eyes were glassy, her mouth parted as if to speak, but no words left her. She kept staring at the table, as though the proof might vanish if she looked long enough. I walked out into the night, the air cold but startlingly clean, leaving them to sit with the wreckage of their own making. The morning sun spilled gently through the blinds, painting stripes of pale gold across my small apartment. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that made the warmth of the coffee in my hands feel like an anchor. I sliced a bagel, spread the cream cheese thick, and set it on a plate. The silence around me was whole, uninterrupted. No buzzing phones, no overdue notices, no voices demanding more than I had to give. Halfway through my first sip, the phone vibrated against the counter. For a moment, my chest tightened, expecting the usual storm. But when I picked it up, there was only a single text from my mother. "I didn't realize how much you carried. I'm sorry." I stared at the words for a long time, the letters blurring slightly as my thumb hovered over the screen. A dozen replies raced through my mind. Anger, forgiveness, questions, but none of them felt right. Instead, I set the phone down, face down, and let it stay that way. I took a bite of my bagel, the crunch and warmth grounding me in the moment. Jazz played softly from the speaker, filling the room with a rhythm that felt steady, unhurried. For the first time in years, the quiet wasn't suffocating. It wasn't the silence of being erased or ignored. It was the kind of quiet that comes when a weight finally lifts. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and breathed deep. This wasn't the absence of family. It was the presence of freedom. And I realized I didn't need to buy my way into peace anymore. The silence was mine. It was enough.